Good morning. My name is Chris McIntosh, Director of Public Safety Industries at Esri, and I'd like to welcome you to this next installment of the Emergency Management webinar series. I'm joined today by three of my colleagues on the public safety team who are the technical experts in building situational awareness applications for customers around the world. Jeff Barani, who also manages our disaster response program, John Petter, who has been instrumental in many of the large special events that we work with, and Kevin Armstrong, who is a key member of our disaster response team and has developed many of the situational awareness tools that have been used in incidents that I'm sure you've read about around the world. So welcome, and I hope you'll find this, this next hour really interesting and informative. The purpose of this webinar series is to provide you periodic updates on use cases for the ArcGIS platform in emergency management. They can be very broad in scope sometimes, like how to deploy the ArcGIS platform across your entire emergency management agency, or they can be very specific on how to solve a particular problem, a specific workflow, or even how to use a specific application. Today's session is how to build situational awareness tools that many of you use every day, and especially use when a disaster strikes. Now, we're going to go through some recent updates to the Situational Awareness Viewer. Some new things have come out that are very, very interesting and very important, that are been driven in a large part from feedback from you, the emergency management community. And I think we've addressed some of the gaps that you've brought to our attention. So we're going to go through those and lay those out for you. Some new themes are out there, new widgets, new grid overlays, all these things the team's going to lay out for you. So I think it'll make your situational awareness applications much more effective and much more efficient for your uses. Then we'll go into just a general broad ArcGIS for emergency management update. So there's lots of good information that'll be passed through that beyond situational awareness. Jeff's going to talk about the disaster response program. Unfortunately, as we say every other month when we have these, that program is extremely busy because bad things keep happening around the world. We just had another scenario last night that we'll talk about. And then, if you aren't aware, the users conference starts in 2 days. The National Security and Public Safety Summit in San Diego starts on Saturday, and then the main conference kicks off on Monday. So we'll give you a summary of activities that are going to happen there. Hopefully, if you're attending, you'll find this useful so you can kind of navigate through all the things that are going on and find the sessions that are of interest to you in your particular practice. And we'll talk about our next webinar, which is going to be in 2 months from now. We keep these on a regular cadence so that you can plan for them. We'll talk about what we're going to talk about during that webinar, and hopefully you can block that time on your calendar. The purpose of the webinar series is to provide you periodic updates, as I said, and have this. What's really important to us is that you have this regular cadence of these webcasts so that you can plan ahead. It's an hour, but we think it's an important hour, and we want to make sure that you find this hour valuable to take the time out of your busy work routine. We really want to focus on showing you real-world implementation so you can not only learn from us, but also learn from things that are happening with your colleagues and perhaps network with them to find out more. So we'll always give that disaster response program update so you can see what's happening in the real world, in real-world scenarios where people are responding to crises. So today's topic is update on Web AppBuilder for ArcGIS and the Situational Awareness Viewer. This area has evolved dramatically over the last 10 years or so. In 2008, we saw the rise of the first big common operating pictures. And these common operating pictures were one view for everybody, hence the common term. Well, in an emergency management agency, it could have 15, 17, some places have 20-something emergency support functions that have to share a view. And many of these common operating pictures became too big, too bloated, too complicated to simply provide information to the people who needed it when they needed it in a timely manner. So those common operating pictures have started to give way to a new paradigm. That new paradigm is what we call mission-focused applications. Still situational awareness. It's still providing the information that you need, but it's tailored and designed for the user. So an operations section chief needs to see different things than a plans chief or a head of ESF1 or the director or the governor or the mayor. They have different needs for situational awareness. The information still needs to flow. The sources still need to provide that information in as near real time as possible, but the user experience needs to be different because of the different needs of those people, different kinds of decisions that need to be made, different levels of detail that they need to see. So these mission-focused applications allow to easily build the right tool for the right person who's doing their job. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to build various kinds of situational awareness viewers depending on what people need. It's still part of one information sharing ecosystem, but allows that tailoring of the view for the use case of the individual user. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Barani, and he's going to kind of give an overview of the situational awareness tools, and then we're going to have John and Kevin actually build some of these for you and show you what you can do. So Jeff, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Chris, and good morning, everyone. First of all, we wanted to start with some of the updates that have come in the Situational Awareness Viewer template. This comes from our colleagues in the Solutions Division at Esri, and they've listened to many of the requirements that you all have had in the user community. So this had an update, just last week, and there's a lot of new exciting features inside here that we want to kind of walk you through. So we'll share the links with you to these applications and updates in the kind of post-show email that will go out afterwards, so you can get kind of the details of these. The first thing we'll show and kind of highlight is how there's a new reporting capability that's been added into the Situational Awareness Widget. So as you get a sense of what's impacted or who's and what's impacted in running the analysis in the Situational Awareness Widget, now you have the ability to generate a report and provide that to folks. So that's now in an additional setting there in the Output tab, and John will show that in a minute and give you the ability to print out these reports either to paper or PDF and share those with others, so we can quickly get a sense of who's impacted as we may need to share this information more broadly for our kind of specific purposes. And as Chris mentioned, these can be set up that they're very kind of mission focused, whether that's ESF1 transportation or ESF6 mass care. We can set up different layers and apps and tools to support each of those kind of diverse mission needs. The other kind of key capability that we want to highlight is the InfoSummary Widget. This is kind of evolved to be a great way to really quickly present at a high level the counts of certain features for various types. So this was instrumental during the recent response to the I-85, a collapse outside of Atlanta, and was used in that example to show summary information for things like Waze alerts and or traffic cameras, that type of thing. So it's another kind of key widget that we think that you'll find a value in portraying information really quickly to your decision makers inside your emergency management agency. So enough of the slides. I want to turn it over now to John Petter, who's going to give you a demonstration of some of these capabilities, show this to you in action, and then walk you through how you can configure this on your own inside your own jurisdiction. So take it away, John.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jeff. I'm just going to start out with an implementation, a design build here of Web AppBuilder and sort of give you the experience. Once we've walked through the capabilities, then we'll dive in and actually see how I went about building this. So I started to use Web AppBuilder far more for targeted apps because the concept of having widgets with each individual capability makes it very easy to target the app to the right folks and not give them too many capabilities to get people confused. So let me just walk you through this app right here. I have a base map here of gray. I find a gray base map helps incidents and information sort of pop out. I didn't really need to see streets or imagery. So the gray base map here I find very useful for the big situational awareness. As Jeff had mentioned on the InfoSummary widget, this is a configuration of that. It is an InfoSummary widget, but I've just called it Global Incidents in this implementation. I'm showing a lot of data here. All the blue data is from one of our partners, NC4, and they're providing some global feeds, which you can see on the map. And then at the bottom, I've got some other feeds here, which are coming from Esri's Living Atlas. So I have some flash flood warnings. You can see I've got a couple of these going on. As I click on these, you'll see the map just pans and zooms to those. I've got some thunderstorms here, which we can look at as well, and understand what the impact of some of these storms might be. So you can see as I'm clicking in here, this is interactive. I can configure this widget to either show everything or just what's on the current map extent. And currently I have it listed here to show everything. I can dive into some current events, and we can look at wildfires. I know we just had one come up in Brian Head right here, which is pretty significant. So we can take a look at that and see what that actually means. So by clicking on here, I've sort of zoomed, I can zoom to it, and I've also got a context menu. This little menu here is new in a couple of releases ago of ArcGIS Online, and it's available now in Portal 10.5. It enables me with the context menu to do several things. I can invoke other widgets by using the actions here. So if I set this as a location, it's actually going to invoke the widget at the bottom of my screen here, which is the Situational Awareness Widget. I'll click this, and it'll zoom in to that particular location, and I can see what's in that location. It's invoked the Situational Awareness Widget at the bottom, which is configured with several different layers of data. The data that I'm showing here is either coming from NC4 or Highveld. So some of the Highveld is the closest and the most impacted fire stations, the active fires, and other information. The buffer that I've set by default is simply a 3-mile buffer, but I can change this and understand what's in a larger area around this fire. All the data layers here can come from your own data, so your own data sources, or external data sources. So in this case, as I mentioned, I've got the Highveld data coming in. So it's great that I can see this on the map, but now how do I deliver that kind of information to someone that needs to make a decision on this? I've got several ways of doing that. At the bottom here, I've got CSV, so I can export this as a CSV. I can create a snapshot, and as Jeff mentioned earlier, we can also create a report. So for instance, if I wanted to understand the fire stations close to here, and I have two, I simply click the download button and download a CSV, which will contain all the address information of those fire stations that can now be sent out and disseminated. To create a snapshot of this, and a snapshot is a point in time, so it's going to take a picture basically of my screen, all the layers of information here which I have, so active fires, fire stations, fire reports, and the incident itself, and write it to my organization. I can then use that later on to produce an information map to share with other people running with the incident and commanders, and I'll show you how that works as well. So let's create a snapshot here for this fire. So this is the Brian Head fire, and hit OK. It'll wrap up all the information here. You can see spinning at the bottom, and now it's created my snapshot. If I go into my organization and into my content, you'll see that I now have a folder right here called Brian Head, and it's got the date and time snapped on it. It's created a web map and brought all the layers of information with it. If I just go ahead and open the web map, you'll see how all the information is in here, and I can now turn all these on. And this is everything which was captured as a point in time. So if you can imagine, as an incident unfolded, I could take snapshots every operational period, depending what the data is that I have in there. Maybe I'm tracking people, personnel, and equipment, and I need that for an after action. I can simply do that. Of course, this is a standard base map, so I can now change the base map, standard web map. So I can change the base map, add other information to it, and now save this. I have a a risk briefing story map here, so I could easily add that straight into my briefing to provide to my incident manager. I can select a map. Here's my Brian Head map. Brian Head Fire. And of course you can provide as much context as necessary in there. And now this is added to my story map. This morning we also had another big event, which was a Montana earthquake of 5.8, sorry. So I did a snapshot of that one to see what was impacted there. I can now brief this out, and I can also obviously create an impact summary map and brief that out too in my story map. So you can see I've just taken right from in here the information coming in, understanding what that means to me, what is around it, what infrastructure, critical infrastructure, facilities, people affected. The other thing that Jeff mentioned earlier was the new reporting functionality. So right here I can click the Create Report button, and this will allows me to produce a report on different size papers, orientation, and put some comments in here. And the report generates all the information that I have in my Situational Awareness Viewer comes into here, and now I can either just generate a PDF of this or send it to the printer. So again, if you combine the CSV and the power of having all the granular information, the snapshot can be used throughout the platform or used for after actions. And then you have the ability to produce this PDF report right here. It's just generating the map right now, but I did do one earlier. And here is the Montana earthquake and all the information around it. You can see the report comes with a legend, scale bar, etc., and gives me some places to put some information in, so you can see exactly what's going on. So these are pretty easy to build, and I'm going to go into now a little bit of detail on how did I put this thing together. Well, it all starts with a web map. So here's my web map layer, and I've got all my layers of information on the left. And this is quite a lot of layers of information. You'll see I have, some of them are grayed out because I have scale dependency turned on. So I have the visibility range turned on here because I don't want to clutter the map at a big view. I've got information that's coming from the Living Atlas. I've even got world traffic and some other layers in here. So the web map is sort of the heart of building this whole app. I'll open up my configuration of Web AppBuilder next and just sort of walk you through. So in Web AppBuilder, the first thing you get to do is choose a theme. And there's all these default themes out of the box. There's some very new exciting themes here, like the dashboard theme as well, which I think Kevin might talk about. So in here, I've chosen my theme and what it's going to look like. I can now brand it. I can use my organization style. I can set a custom style, and I can choose how that's going to look. I can also test how that might look by looking at the previews. So how might that look on some of my mobile devices, for instance? So if I want to be using this app on an iPhone, I can look at it there. I can look at it on an iPad and see how it might look on an iPad. So it's very nice to understand what the themes are going to look like and how it's going to impact the usability of my app. Next, you go and select the web map. In this case, that's the web map I just showed you, my global situation awareness web map. And then I've got some widgets. And we have a whole collection of widgets. And the really nice thing about Web AppBuilder is without using any lines of code, I can select specific widgets for specific people. So I can only give them the functionality that they need without confusing people with giving them an overly complex app. So I can move across these widgets in here, and they highlight in the app themselves. Let me close this one up. As I move over these, you can see on the top right-hand corner how they're highlighting them red. So this is the action of the widget. You also notice that when I open Web AppBuilder up, I automatically want people to have that information summary widget available to them. I don't need a closed app and have to have someone understand that they have to click up here to activate this. So there's a little green button right here on the app, on the widget, sorry, and it just allows you to have that widget open automatically when you open the app, and that's a really nice feature. So if I look at the configuration of this particular widget, you can see I've got a lot of different layers here referring to each one of these sections. Let's take a look into the security events. So this is simply a layer from my web map that I've selected. I've configured a display icon right here in display option. And there's some position of where I want it in here. If I click on the display option, I've got the symbology, and then I've also got the panel, and the panel is what is going to be displayed. So I've got two fields added here, which is the gist of what is happening and when it was last updated, the date. I've also asked the widget to group the features by type. That makes it much easier when you've got something with a lot of events in. You can see, for example, security events has 29. That would be a lot to display to somebody at one time. By grouping them, I can make it easier for people to navigate. So I go through here and I've configured all of those. I've also configured tornado warnings, flash flood, etc. And these layers, any layer that honors on your web map can be used inside here. I've chosen to display the feature counts, which is why I've got the counts of incidents on the number of each of these. That's an option. There's also show all features. This is where we can enable or disable the extent, so that by zooming in, you could change the number of features shown, or you can use all of them. There's some other options here, like expand the list on startup, which I'm not using in this particular case. So that's the global incidents, and again, this is the group by type is why they're grouping under these various types and then giving me the options to look underneath them. So I can see where all these pieces are happening very easily, just expanding the widget. The second part is the bar at the bottom. So this is the widgets in the controller. So that's a separate set of widgets, and again, I've got some simple ones like base map, legend, layer list, bookmarks, situation awareness, and driving directions. But by clicking the add button, it brings up a whole library of different widgets and functionalities which I can add to my app. But again, I might not need to put something like measurement into this because it might not be pertinent to the end user. So I don't need to add it. So this allows me again just to target those apps with the capability that people need without overwhelming anything. You can also add edit widgets right in here, so you can edit within the app. And there's two different edit widgets. There's an edit, and then there's a smart editor, which have slightly different functionalities. And when you start adding edit, you can explore some of those widgets. There's really good help for all of these widgets available as well. So the situational awareness, if I can configure this widget, again, I've named it situational awareness, but you can change this name and call it anything you like. So it could be your agency situational awareness, or whatever is best branding for the activity that you're doing. I've got off my web map here a list of all Esri offices around the world. And what I want to understand is, if an event is happening, what is the closest Esri office that it could be impacted? So under the analysis type, I've got some options. So I can just find the closest. I can list them by proximity. I can even have a summary. So if there's lots of information, you might want summary or grouped counts. I can configure the fields in here that I want to display in the widget when I actually click on that point. And the display feature count adds the count to the tab, which is another option. Some of the new things, Jeff, just actually let me look at the bottom here and just go over general settings. So here's the tab label. What do I want to call the area of interest? I can name that as well. A buffer distance. Buffer is a GIS term. Maybe buffer isn't the best thing for some of the folks working in your operations centers, and you want to rename that. I've got a default buffer distance, which I've set at 3 miles, but you can change that. The maximum and the closest features. You can also enable weather and select additional weather layers right here, and your distance units depending what distance units you need them in. So that's the analysis portion of the widget. Then there's the output portion of the widget. So for output, I've enabled the snapshot, which I showed you earlier, the export with the CSV, and the new reporting settings. So you can put your own logo right here, so it comes up with your agency's logo. You can put a footnote on there as well. Colors you can change, and this is the default print service, but if you've got your own print service, you can enable that as well. So just checking these buttons here is what gives you the ability in the Situational Awareness widget. Let's take a look at Montana. Let's just take a look at the earthquake right there. And you'll see that I've got the print, the CSV, and the snapshot all enabled on here. But I don't have to use the context menu for driving events. I've also got a point tool. I can just drop a point anywhere. I've got a line and a polygon tool as well. So we could take a polygon and literally draw a polygon here and understand what's going on within that polygon. Here's all those events. Obviously a tremendous amount of fire stations up there in up through California. The other really interesting thing here as well with incidents is I can choose any of these incidents. Let's just take a look, say at a weather warning right here, flood warning, and we'll set that as a location. If I have something close to here, like an Esri office, well, what if I want to understand the distance and the driving between that? I can click on this and actually activate now a driving directions widget as well. So all the widgets in Web AppBuilder are now communicating to each other through the context menus, and one widget will be able to talk to another widget. So it makes it a very powerful way to implement Web AppBuilder apps and target them with the functionality between them. And again, I didn't have to write any lines of code to do any of this. So you can use a polygon, a point, or a line, all with situation awareness. This is a manual workflow where we're going through and selecting points individually. Some of this can be automated by using some of the enterprise tools, some of our other abilities, such as our geo event, where you can actually start to automate some of these. So if something happens near my location or near critical infrastructure, start to get some situation awareness delivered. That then can be verified by the analyst by using an app such as this and configured in this manner, produce that snapshot, and then we can go right back into a briefing, and now we can provide a briefing right through a story map and send that out to an executive so they understand what's impacted and how it's impacted. So that's a brief overview of this particular app and a couple of these widgets. There's a lot more in Web AppBuilder. Highly encourage you to sort of explore the different widgets and spend some time with the help going through those and seeing which widgets and which apps suit situational awareness for your particular agency. Jeff, I think that wraps it up for an overview of this particular app. Back to you.
Great, thanks, John, and thanks for providing an overview there of that section. So hopefully in that part you got a sense of how you can start to leverage these tools to help meet your specific needs, and you got a sense of the kind of feature functions that are available to you. But I hope you were thinking about how you can use these and break these up to support the different areas that you may be supporting in your emergency management agency, whether that's operations, planning, transportation, mass care, whatever the case may be. It gives you these tools have the great ability to provide a lot of value. But then you might want different tools or data sets depending on the needs for each of the various aspects of your support. So in this next section, we wanted to provide an update of some of the other functionality that recently got updated with the Web AppBuilder last week. So there's a couple of key things that Kevin's going to show you here in just a minute, and we just wanted to highlight those here really. So first of all, the new dashboard theme. So that's a new entry here that you'll see in the theme, and John highlighted that a bit, and Kevin will demonstrate what that looks like here in just a few minutes. So that's one of the key updates we wanted to highlight. That's kind of paired with a series of infographic widgets that you can use to display a lot of information. There's a lot of interactivity now between these as well, between the map, the different gauges, and the elements that you see there. So a lot of great new capabilities there from kind of the reporting side. Also, wanted to highlight some of the additional enhancements from the U.S. National Grid or MGRS perspective. So there's a new grid overlay widget that has been added to the default set of widgets that come with ArcGIS Online and the Web App Builder. So you can display the reference grid here, such as U.S. National Grid, on top of your map. Just on a side note, I also wanted to highlight that U.S. National Grid and MGRS support has been added in the default geocoder with inside ArcGIS Online. So if you type in your coordinates, as you see here, you'll get located right in the map. And then the third kind of aspect of this is the ability to do coordinate conversions between different types of communicating coordinate information between decimal degrees, MDRS, whatever the case may be. So that's an additional widget that's been provided at this release and is now available to you as you're starting to think about how you might configure your various applications. So that's just a quick overview in slide form of these new capabilities. Now we'd like you to turn it over to Kevin Armstrong, who can show these to you in action, and then show you actually how to configure these inside your own environment. So over to you, Kevin.
All right, thank you, Jeff. And what I'd like to do is just start out with a finished product here and give you an idea of, we'll start with the new dashboard theme in Web App Builder. As you can see here, this is a finished app, and I'm using the new Infographics widgets that Jeff mentioned. And this is just using some shelter data for Baltimore City, and you can see how nice this looks and how responsive the app can be. The new widgets are scalable. You can resize them in the app. You can make a particular widget full screen if you like. It just depends on your display preferences. And the widgets also interact with the map. So when I hover over a particular bar, I can see those features highlighted on the map. So a very nice use of functionality. And again, these are all new in the latest release of Web App Builder. So let's just dive in and show you kind of how to recreate this new dashboard theme with this shelters display within a web map or within Web App Builder. So again, it all starts within our web map. So I have a service here of shelters for the city, and I've configured the pop-ups and I've set the refresh interval. Some of the basic things that we do when we're preparing to create an application. So things like refresh interval, so I automatically see changes in the data once they're applied. So once I've done that and I've got my map ready with symbology and pop-ups, I can just go to the share button and I can create a web app from here. So by default, you see all of our out-of-the-box web app templates, but you can also select the tab for Web App Builder. And what this allows you to do is enter into that builder experience and begin configuring your, so I'll just call this Baltimore Shelter Status Webinar, and begin configuring your application. So this will launch the builder for our web app, and the first thing that I want to show you is this new dashboard theme. So here on the left side, we have our traditional themes that you may be accustomed to, but we've added this new dashboard theme. So by selecting that, it automatically redoes our web application using that new theme. And I can change colors for that. I can go light or dark. And I can also change the configuration of the widgets. So if I prefer, maybe I want the map at the top and widgets on the bottom, or maybe I really want a lot of widgets, we have a few default layouts that you can choose. But if you're not particularly fond of any of those layouts, you can also modify those yourself just by clicking this Modify button. And what this allows me to do is to reposition or resize a lot of these widgets. So I can make some a little smaller, I can remove one, or if I want to add, I can just click and drag and add a new widget, and I see where that widget will live within our layout. So a lot of nice options here for placing new widgets. And again, you can resize those depending on your preferences. So once I hit OK and say this is the layout that I would like to use, it saves that configuration here in the bottom left within my app. So as I'm configuring this application, I'm trying a few different layouts. If I find one that I like, I can just save that and always come back to it for this particular application. So what I'd like to do is just go through how you configure this new dashboard theme. So I want to add some widgets to this app, and with the dashboard theme you have these locations here for particular widgets. So I can still access all of our out-of-the-box widgets, but this particular widget theme or this dashboard theme gives me kind of a subset of all the widgets in Web App Builder. So I don't see the full list of, I think there's probably, I don't know, say 40 or so widgets available out of the box. I don't get all of them by default for these specific tabs. So I have, like, InfoSummary and Situational Awareness aren't in here because they don't really fit nicely into the space you have. I can still add them as part of my widgets. So in the dashboard theme I have a placeholder here for more widgets that I can use any of the out-of-the-box widgets. So you see I have InfoSummary, Situational Awareness. I can still add those using the dashboard theme, but if I want to use some of these tabs here on the left, it's a subset of the widgets that are available to fit within there. But just know that you have access to all widgets regardless of the theme that you're using. So what I'd like to do now is begin using the new Infographic Widget, which was just released last week, and this pairs really nicely with the dashboard theme. So I'm going to hit OK, and as part of this infographic we have 8 different visualizations that we can use. Numbers, gauges, we can do column and bar and pie charts, line charts, etc. So what I'd like to do is kind of recreate that shelter status app that I showed you before, and I'm going to start by using the number widget and hit OK here. So by default it's going to select, you know, whatever layers I have available in my map I can use as input to these widgets. If I had an external data source, I could actually go to the attribute tab here and add in a custom URL of something that wasn't in my web app and I wanted to use within these widgets. I could do that as well. But for now, we're just going to focus on layers that are in our web app. So we're going to use shelters. And now I can begin configuring the layout of how this widget is going to look. So we have 4 options here that we can use for this widget. So I can put some descriptive text in there, you know, current open shelters. I can adjust the size, the color, the background, the alignment, etc. Very simple to do. If I wanted to put a custom logo in there, I could upload an image, maybe an agency image or something like that. But if I don't want to use any of these, I can easily just turn those off as well and just put in, you know, maybe I just want to show the count of current shelters. So in this case, I want to show a count. I could also do statistics by fields. Like if I wanted to do, you know, current occupancy, I could see how many people are in the shelters now. But in this case, I just want to do the count. And now I can go and customize the display. So decimal places, if I want to add, you know, any text to the end, I can do that. So say 30 shelters, control the font, the size, etc. Very simple to customize. Again, very easy to use. The other nice thing about these infographic widgets is they come with indicators. And a lot of times if you have a dashboard, you don't really want to have somebody staring at it waiting for data to change or certain thresholds to be met. So what I can do with this dashboard is I can add an indicator to it. So if the number of open shelters is greater than 30, I want to change the color of the text. And I can also add an indicator icon, so maybe an arrow up or down. So in this case, up makes the most sense. Maybe I'll put that to the right, and we'll make that yellow as well. So if the number of shelters goes from 30 to 31, then the font and the color and an indicator widget will display by default. So very useful. So we can call this widget, we'll call it Open Shelters, and hit OK. So let me change let me actually go back and make that a little smaller font. Make that, say, 40, hit OK. There we go. So very easy to customize. The next thing I want to do is just work with, again, the Infographic Widget, and I want to show you the gauge template in here. So we can go into the gauge here, we'll select shelters as our source, and what I'd like to do here is use this gauge to show what's the capacity of our shelters. You know, how full are they? How much room do we have left for adding additional people? So what I'm going to do is just I'll add some text on the top. We'll say this is percent capacity, and of course we can resize these as well. So this text, I could put it on the side, top, bottom. These are all movable as well. So it just depends on how you want to set the layout here. And then for the actual chart itself, we can customize that. So we can do feature count or statistics. It just depends on what you're working with. In this case, I'm going to use occupancy. And in this case, I know that I have the capacity for 20,000 people in my shelter, so I can set that as my maximum. And what I'll do here on the display is we can change our gauge color. And instead of displaying the value, I want to display a ratio. So I want to show this as a percentage. So now I know what percentage of capacity are we. So we're at 15% roughly capacity in our shelters. So again, very simple. We can change colors, font sizes, etc. Very useful to set up. We also have indicators for gauges as well. So if this value is greater than, let's say, 16, that'll also be a ratio. So if we get over 16%, we can do the same thing, change our color, change the gauge color, etc. And the last thing I want to do, I'll turn the target value off and hit OK. So there's our percent capacity. You see we're getting close there. The other thing I'll do here is we'll just add a chart widget in. It's part of the infographic template as well. Let's do a column chart. Again, we'll choose shelters. And in this case, we'll just do a chart. And if you're familiar with our chart widget in Web AppBuilder existing, it works the same way. You have options for values by category, feature counts. In this case, I want to see what are the counts of shelters by their status. So how many open do I have, how many are on standby, etc. So I just select feature counts by category. Again, I can go into the display, change the color of my text, my bar charts as well. Very simple and easy. We can call this shelter summary, hit OK. And at any time as I'm building this template, I can modify my layout. So I can go back to my theme and say, you know what, I really only want to use 3 of these infographics. I don't want 5 spaces. So I could either go in and modify the existing layout and just delete the unused ones, or I could say, let's just select the existing 3 on the bottom template. And again, I can modify the layout. Maybe I want more space for my chart, so I can slide over my other 2 widgets, hit OK, and now I have more space for my chart. So I'm going to go ahead and save this application, and I'm going to launch it. So now I can see it in full screen. I see all my shelters. I see the info refreshing. And what I want to do is I want to demo that indicator capability to you. So what I have here is I have the collector app open. And in this web map, I can see all the shelters. So on my Web AppBuilder side, I have a filter so I do not see anything that's closed. But on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this Riverside Baptist Church, and I'm going to change this from closed to open. And what this is going to do is it's going to add, we see the occupancy is 500, so it's going to add 500 more people, and it's going to take our 30 open shelters up to 31. And you remember we set that indicator, so I'm going to hit update, and as this data refreshes, you'll see my two indicator widgets have now opened up. So now we have 31 shelters, and my capacity has exceeded that threshold that I set in the indicator. So both of those turn yellow to let me know that we've surpassed a certain value or a certain threshold that matters to me and perhaps requires action or just someone's attention for the matter. So again, very powerful, very useful widgets in this new dashboard theme and the new infographic widgets. And again, just to reiterate, I still have access to all my other widgets. So if I wanted to add in, a print widget or situational awareness widget like John showed earlier, I can still add those using this dashboard theme. They just show up right here in this space. So this theme has a specific layout that you can use for all the widgets. And again, the infographic widgets or the space made by the dashboard theme has a subset of widgets that fit within there. But again, you have access to everything. You're not losing anything by choosing the dashboard theme. All right, so that covers the new dashboard theme and the infographic widgets. What I'd like to do is talk about 2 or 3 new options we have, and I'll open up a new map here. In the latest release of Web AppBuilder, we released the coordinate conversion widget and the grid overlay widget. Those are 2 new options you have. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new web app, and we'll use Web AppBuilder and show you how those widgets work as well. So when you launch Web AppBuilder, again, these widgets will work in any of the themes you choose. So those 2 will work within the dashboard theme. You can just, again, it doesn't really matter which theme you choose. I'll just select the tab theme for now. And we'll go over to our widgets, and we'll set our widgets here. So we'll start off with our coordinate conversion. So we can select that and hit OK. And what we'll do is we have a little bit of customization we can do. So the coordinate conversion widget allows you to basically click on the map, and for any location that you click, you can retrieve coordinates for that location in all these different formats. So again, you can, if you don't want every single format, you can turn a few of these off. It's up to you. Say I just want to do decimal degree, I want to do degrees, minutes, seconds, MGRS, and USNG. And if I wanted to edit the format, I could do that as well. So I could go in and say, maybe I want X and Y, I want to have that as Y and X. You can adjust that order. Just depends on what you need out of the box. There are some customization options. And you can change the zoom scale as well for what you're doing. And of course, the symbol, when you click on the map, it actually creates a symbol, so you can choose from all of our templates as which one you want to use. So we'll hit OK and save that. And how that works is, we'll just go ahead and zoom down to an area here. And we've had some severe weather here in Charlotte just yesterday. So perhaps maybe I'm sending a team out to the field, and I want them to investigate this, let me click on it right, this windstorm report. So there was a tree down and power lines at Hovis Road. So I want to send somebody out there, but maybe they just have a, a handheld Garmin or something, and I need to get some coordinates to them. So I can open up my coordinate conversion widget, and I can just click on the map, and wherever I click, you'll see the coordinates on the left here will adjust. So whatever location I click, the coordinates will change. So I can click on that location. It gives me in decimal degrees. I get a USNG, MGRS, and degrees, minutes, seconds. in any one of these, I can have a breakdown. So if I just want to copy a particular, maybe the easting or northing, I can copy those to the clipboard. Or I can just hit copy, and it says copy successful. I can open up just a text or paste those into email or something like that. You can easily see the coordinates there. All right, so, or maybe I want to copy all of them together. We have a copy all function, so I can just hit copy, go over to my text editor, and instead of this, I can just paste all of my coordinates in there. So I get all of them pasted into one document. So again, very useful, very easy. Something that we've heard quite a bit of feedback on, people wanting this capability. So this is, in this release, this is our first pass at ways to do that kind of coordinate conversion. The other one we want to focus on here is the grid overlay. This is again new with the latest release of Web AppBuilder, and this allows you to basically just turn on a reference grid over your web map or your web application. And some very simple display properties here, the spacing of your labels, where you want your labels to be placed, whether you want the labels to be vertical or horizontal. Again, font size you can control, and you see the display here update on the left. As I change these, you can see them update on the preview. So if I just hit OK, I can close this and turn on my grid overlay, and you'll see my grid automatically updates. And as I zoom in and out, it will automatically show the proper grid for that scale. So we go all the way in. As I zoom out, we'll get into our zones. You see 17 south here. You can keep zooming out, and you'll see it just at the proper scale, it displays the proper amount of information. There we go. Again, this is something that has been asked for, and quite a bit of people have either published their own layer or something. Now we have a widget out of the box where you can easily just turn on a reference grid and have that display over the map. And the last thing I want to show you is just a very simple function, but something again that people have asked for, and this is a full screen widget. So what this does, it's there out of the box in your theme. So you see in the upper right, we have the full screen button added. So if I just save this application and launch it, now when I open up the app, by default here in the upper right, I have this full screen. So when I hit that, the application will automatically go to full screen. Again, nice easy little button to use, nice functionality. Again, here's our coordinate overlay and our grid overlay and coordinate conversion. All right, so that's just a quick overview of some of the new things. There's plenty more features. We'll send you out a link to the what's new in ArcGIS Align. It's really worth a read. A lot of really nice enhancements have come out in this release, especially for the public safety workflows, some of the ones we've shown today. With that, we'll head back to Jeff.
Great, thanks Kevin. Thanks for that tour of the new functionality that's there. Appreciate kind of showing it in a workflow example, at the beginning around the shelters, and hopefully it's giving you all some ideas of different ways that you can leverage these additional new developments to support some of your mission needs. So just real quick, a couple of other minor updates before we close out here. As we mentioned, this is a really big update for the ArcGIS for Emergency Management Solution templates. You saw some of the Situational Awareness Viewer updates today. Also wanted to note a couple of other things from that team. They've got a new pro version of the Emergency Management Maps template. That's something that's been migrated from desktop. Also, the solution employment tools now work with ArcGIS Pro 2.0 and several other additional enhancements there. And other apps, various apps through the collection got some minor updates and enhancements. So definitely make sure to check out the What's New section for more details on what's been From a disaster response program perspective, as Chris mentioned in the beginning, certainly continues to be very busy with various events and incidents all throughout the world. We inventory some good public examples from the user community in our examples group, and we'll share that with you in the post-show link. So as we mentioned, the earthquake from Montana overnight, we've already created an impact summary map of that, and so that's available. A couple of other things we've added recently, including the public information map for the 4th of July celebrations in D.C. Again, another kind of good example from a special events perspective of sharing info with the public. And from a preparedness perspective, Virginia's recently configured a hurricane evacuation zones map that app that we've shared in that group as well. Also to note, obviously the user conferences in National Security Summit are next week, and we're hoping that many of you can join us. Just wanted to highlight some of the activities that are going on if you'll be there. This comes from the Public Safety Events and Activities sheet. We've got that available as a handout in the webcast to your right, and then we'll also be sharing the link with this for you as well. So we've got lots of Ops Center presentations across emergency management, fire, law enforcement, CAD 911, so check out those sessions. Many different topics in the demo theater, emergency response guide update, for example, and some more detailed looks at some various workflows, some updates to flood preparedness tools and solutions. Of course, our standing special interest groups meetings across the week, so make sure to join us at lunchtime, depending on which one you're interested in. And then finally, a variety of different paper sessions from the user community across different aspects of the public safety community. So again, those links are available to you. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Chris to kind of close us out from a next steps perspective before we jump into questions here real quick. So back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Jeff. So next steps, explore the resources presented in today's webinar. There's the handouts that Jeff mentioned to the right, but there's also things you can find online about the new Web App Builder, new dashboard, all of the things that were presented today. This webinar is recorded, so you can go back to the public safety website and find a recording if there's something you missed or something you want to look at again. Next webinar will be September 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific, modernizing your desktop with ArcGIS Pro, and some of those new emergency management maps that Jeff just mentioned. We'll go through those using the power of ArcGIS Pro to really bring your applications to another level. As always, you can email the team here if you have any questions or if you have ideas and suggestions about future webinars or just anything that this presentation may have tripped in your mind. Please let us know. We're always looking for feedback. Follow us on social media, especially next week. There'll be lots of things coming out from the users conference, but always, especially at that Esri DRP, when bad things happen in the world, we put out some of the efforts that we are going through to help the affected areas, and it's a great resource for you to learn maybe some new best practices based upon real-world events. We hope to see you next week in San Diego. We're really excited to be there. If you're there, please come up and grab one of us and mention that you are on this webinar, and we'd love to talk to you and maybe follow up on some of the things that we talked about today, and hopefully make your week as productive and educational as possible. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff and go through a few questions in the last couple minutes, and then we'll wrap this up.
Great, thanks, Chris. So the first question I wanted to ask is to John. So one of the questions that's come in here, what are the different options for customizing the look and feel of the report template? So how can you make that look, and what are the options for configuring how that report looks like?
So in the first version of this report template that we have available, you can change the colors in the report, you can change the logo in the report, and you have space for some text to give you some context in the report. To control what's actually being shown in the layers, the Situational Awareness Widget uses the layers displayed within it first as the summary data, and then the other data layers are controlled by turning on and off fields in the pop-ups. So you configure your web map and you turn the fields on and off in there, and that is what will be used to drive the report. So each of those columns. As far as actually changing the structure of the report, it's a single report right now, which is just used in that tabular format to provide the map and the fields. Hope that helps.
Great. Thanks, John. Kevin, just real quick, back over to you. Any common kind of questions that you've seen or quick things that you'd like to add before we close out today?
No, I think it's just the one thing that I saw was, people asking about using existing data. Back when John was showing the situational awareness report and the widget, it's always a good thing to remember that the tool has built-in tools for drawing points, lines, or polygons and doing a buffer or finding features within them. But always remember that any layer that's in your web map, whether that's a point or a weather warning, I think John showed that, that you can use those as input into that widget. And that's really, in my opinion, where it becomes really powerful is you can select existing events instead of having to try to hand draw them yourself. Just always remember that is a built-in capability of the Situation Awareness Viewer.
Great. No, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for pointing that out. That's a really good point of emphasis there. So with that, we're at the end of our time, the end of our hour here, so we thank you all for joining us. We hope to see some of you next week in San Diego, and definitely look forward to all the activities there, and if not, we'll catch you on the next webcast in September. So have a good day, everyone. Take care.